Well, hey everybody, it's Eric Sonner here with you for the latest edition of the Second Floor Therapy weekly podcast. I'm so glad you joined me again this week. During the summer months, I'm doing a podcast every week talking about education, middle school education, music education to be a little more specific. And this week, I am really excited because I, about a month ago, read this book called Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. And I've been doing a lot more reading this summer because I have more time. And usually I read a lot of books about music, but I've been really focusing more on education this summer. And this book really isn't about education, although there's a lot of things out of here that we can apply to education. It's more about living life. And I want to share some of the things today and kind of relate it a little bit to education and middle school and music education today. So I hope you'll enjoy this podcast today. And I really encourage you to read this book. Maybe after I tell you a little bit about it, you might run and get it. So I'm just going to read some quotes out of here and give you some thoughts. And I'll try to keep it brief and let you stew on some of these things. But one of the first things that stuck out is this quote right here: belonging is the innate human desire to be part of something larger than us. Because this yearning is so primal, we often try to acquire it by fitting in and by seeking approval, which are not only hollow substitutes for belonging, but often barriers to it. Because true belonging only happens when we present our authentic, imperfect selves to the world. Our sense of belonging can never be greater than our level of self acceptance. So, when you enter a middle school, this is huge. This is what's on kids' minds all the time: fitting in, belonging. Where do I belong? Where do I best fit where people will accept me for who I am? Do I need to change myself to fit in? Do I need to change to be friends with this person? What if this friend of mine decides they don't want to be friends with me anymore? What do I do? Do I change who I am? Did they change who they are? What's the problem? Is there a problem? And so these are things that are encountering them all the time. And in middle school, it's practice. It's learning about who you are, and then learning about who the other people who appreciate who you are. But unfortunately, everyone's changing, and who you are is changing. So that's why friendships change so much in middle school, because everyone is developing who they are. And who you were best friends with in third grade is no longer somebody you want to be your best friend in seventh grade. And that's okay. Unfortunately, in middle school, that's really hard because we want to belong. And it's hard when all of a sudden a group of people that we belong with is no longer the group we belong with. Or if you're in a group of friends and there's somebody in your group that no longer really fits, or how do you still, but they want to fit in, how do you still get along with them? Or maybe they don't want to hang out with you anymore and you're offended by that. Then there's other groups that want you to be a certain way to fit in. And so you change who you are because you want to be in that group. Maybe it's the popular group, or it's just a group of people that you think you really like. And so you change who you are to be in there, and then you do stupid things and you make bad decisions, and you're not happy with yourself because you're not being who you really are for just a matter of fitting in. Boy, these are tough. I mean, we struggle with this as adults sometimes, and going through this in middle school is so hard. And in here we are as a school, and yeah, we talk about bullying, we talk about, being friendly and accepting others, and that's all great. But we need to address this more with middle school kids. We need to talk about what's going on in our brain. What's going on is just part of nature. This is how we grow. This is how we mature. And it's okay that friendships are going to change. And no, we don't have to act a certain way just to fit in. And yes, it's okay to not hang out with this person even though they were your best friend 4 years ago. And we need to have time to do this. We need to find time in the school day, in addition to all the great things that we're teaching and the different subject areas we teach, and teaching kids how to be responsible and teaching kids how to be organized. We need to teach kids this process and teach them how to get through these situations. And the counselors are great. Schools have great counselors. My school has two incredible counselors, but this is our school has 750 students. they need more than just the two counselors to help them through these things. And some people say, well, these are things that parents should do. Absolutely, parents should be helping kids through this. But as we all know, not all parents are equipped to deal with this. And even parents who are equipped to deal with this, they would probably appreciate a little help from other adults, because we know kids sometimes will listen to their teachers more than they'll listen to their parents. So they need that, you know, people that are backing them up and saying, this is okay, or this is how it should be, or no, this is not okay. Your parents are right. And as we all know too, there are parents who don't care, and there's kids that come from situations where parents are too busy, or parents are, on drugs, or parents have a lot of other strikes against them, and they're unable to help in a way that even that parent might want to be able to help. So these kids need it more than anybody and need to hear it from us. So we need to spend some time on this. We need to make this part of what we're giving to kids. We need to just give kids the opportunity to talk and to express themselves. And as teachers, just to be listeners, as parents, just to be listeners. And we don't always have to have the answer for kids, but we need to let them know that this is okay what they're going through. And sometimes kids will need some guidance, a lot of guidance. And other times we just need to let them talk through it and have them know that this is part of life. So that's huge. That's just a huge thing. Let me move on to another part here. One of there are a lot of great lists in this book. Here's one, and I'll have to leave one word out here because I'm going to try to make this a PG podcast. But people are hard to hate close up, so move in. Number 2, speak truth to bull, be civil. Number 3, hold hands, even with strangers. And number 4, have a strong back, a soft front, and a wild heart. These are so true. And we live in a society where, let's just talk about politics for a second. We are so bad at this. We, over social media and in conversations with each other that we agree with on certain political points, we talk terribly and disrespectfully to each other. It just drives me crazy how we do that. And yet, some of these people, and the book kind of addresses this, some of these people that are so easy to hate online or in our world, sometimes these are people who do some of the most incredible things. I think the book made reference to that person who is a complete 180 to you politically, maybe the person that's driving you to your chemo treatments. How do you hate somebody like that? Somebody that cares so much. So by getting to know people, by developing relationships, by talking to one another, and beyond politics, and talking about caring for each other and our well-being and giving time for each other, that's how we get rid of the hate in this world. And that's hard. That's hard because we live in a world where we're very busy. Social media is very prevalent. We don't have time to connect with people as much as we would like to. And we need to change that and make that time. Speak truth to bull and be civil. Again, some people just stretch the truth so far that it's not true. And it's very easy to get in arguments with people like that. But it's more important to be civil and to say, okay, let's unwrap this information that you have here. If you want to get into that, and other times you just have to let it go and be like, we're not gonna enter this conversation right now. I don't know you well enough. We are not at a point where we can talk civil about this. Let's discuss something else. And you build that relationship with somebody. Maybe you can go there eventually, but you got to have those boundaries. You got to know when you can and when it's even worth it too. But again, build relationships. Build relationships with people that you want to build relationships with, and then you can get into those conversations. Hold hands with strangers. One of the best things we can do as human beings is to look at others who need our help, and again, not judge, not look at them and say you're a different religion than me, you're a different, maybe you're it's somebody that doesn't believe in gay rights and you do. Maybe it's somebody who is racist, and you hold their hand, figuratively or literally, and you help them through situations. And getting to know strangers and helping strangers with their needs is really cool. It's really cool. And we can all do what we can do. You know, for some of us, that's monetary. Some of us, that's giving some time. Some of the, it's just very simple things, um, holding the door for somebody, um, giving somebody a meal, giving somebody just some words of encouragement. So, a prayer. These are all things that we can do. Some of them are bigger than others, and some of us have the ability to do it, and some of us don't. So, we all have the ability to do something little. So, we should do that. And then, strong back, soft front, wild heart. I'm going to talk about that here in just a little bit. Let me go on to another part of the book here. Oh, this part's great. So, the world feels high lonesome and heartbroken to me right now. We've sorted ourselves into factions based on our politics and ideology. We've turned away from one another and toward blame and rage. We're lonely and untethered and scared. So scared. But rather than coming together and sharing our experiences through song and story, we're screaming at one another from further and further away. Rather than dancing and praying together, we're running from one another. Rather than pitching wild and innovative new ideas that could potentially change everything, we're staying quiet and small in our bunkers and loud in our echo chambers. That's so true, people. So true. I, the world is so polarized right now. We're just being stretched. All these people in this direction, all these people in this direction, and I always say I feel like I'm always in the middle and I'm getting run over in both directions. I really feel that way. Um, those of us in the middle, I feel like we need to reach out in both directions. And I'm not saying we necessarily have to try to pull people back, but through some of these things that I already mentioned from the book, through kindness towards each other, through building relationships, that's going to just happen. So it's not necessarily we're trying to pull them back into the middle, but we're reaching out to them. And if they want to come back to the middle, fantastic. If they want to stay out there, we're going to continue to be kind and help them out. But we have to be the voice of reason, the people that realize this is not a black and white world, the people that realize that instead of just arguing and instead of just yelling, we need to be looking for solutions. We need to be working together. And so I'm going to keep moving. This podcast is going to be like an hour long. All right, I'm going to leave out some words here too, but this has to do with dehumanization. If you are offended or hurt when you hear Hillary Clinton or Maxine Waters called the B word, the W word, or the C word, you should be equally offended and hurt when you hear those same words used to describe Ivanka Trump, Kellyanne Conway, or Theresa May. A lot of you need to learn from that one. I need to learn from that one. If you felt belittled when Hillary Clinton called Trump supporters a basket of deplorables, then you should have felt equally concerned when Eric Trump said Democrats aren't even human. You know how many times I see this in my social media feed? If you voted for this person, just unfriend me. I can't even talk to you. I get the anger, I get the frustration, but that's the problem. That's contributing to the problem right there. Number 3, when the President of the United States calls women dogs or talks about grabbing them, we should get chills down our spine and resistance flowing through our veins. When people call the President of the United States a pig, we should reject that language regardless of our politics and demand discourse that doesn't make people subhuman. Even calling him 45 drives me nuts. It's dehumanization. You can dislike him and you can dislike his policies and how he goes about it. I don't like how he goes about his position and how he treats people. But I'm not going to call him a pig. I'm not even going to go as far as calling him 45. I'm going to call him Donald Trump. I'm going to call him president. I'm not even going to say he's not my president. He is my president. I live in this country. Does that mean I like him as a president? No, and that's okay. But you start dehumanization, you are doing the exact same things he's doing. Maybe I shouldn't say exact. I have a lot of kind people who call him that, and a lot of friends who call him that. But you're starting to go down that road that he's gone down in dehumanization. Don't go there. Just don't go there. Number four, when we hear people referred to as animals or aliens, we should immediately wonder, is this an attempt to reduce someone's humanity so we can get away with hurting them or denying them basic human rights? And number five, if you're offended by a meme of Trump photoshopped to look like Hitler, then you shouldn't have Obama photoshopped to look like the Joker on your Facebook feed. So these are all leading to the same things. It's called having dignity. It's called being respectful. It's called laying the groundwork for bringing healing and recovery to our society and to our culture. The more that we respond to bad names with other bad names, the more we respond to anger with more anger, we're not going in the right direction. All of you who don't agree with the president, I get it. I get it. But you know what? There's a lot of people who agree with the president. And the more we just sit here and say to those people, you're wrong, you're wrong, just unfriend me if you feel this way. How is that leading to a society where we can bring people back together? It's not. It's not. And I get the frustration. I get that it's out of frustration. I get that it's out of anger. But we need to bring people back together. All right, next one. Let's see. In philosophy, the saying "you're either with us or against us" is considered a false dichotomy or a false dilemma. It's a move to force people to take sides. If other alternatives exist, and they almost always do, then that statement is factually wrong. It's turning an emotionally driven approach into weaponized belonging, and it always benefits the person throwing down the gauntlet and brandishing those forced false choices. The ability to think past either or situations is the foundation of critical thinking, but still it requires courage. Getting curious and asking questions happens outside of our bunkers of certainty. For most of us, even if the with us or against us mandate sounds a little like oversimplified BS, it still feels easier and safer to pick a side. Once again, there's not a lot of black and white in this world. There's a lot of gray. And, she brings up a story in this book about guns and how she grew up in a family that hunted and had lots of guns. And she was talking to somebody about, having, this background. And this person immediately, was like gun lover, NRA supporter. And she's like, I don't have a problem with owning guns to go hunting. And, that's fine. I actually probably agree with you on more issues than you would think. And this woman wanted to have nothing of it. She's like, either you are for guns or you are against guns, and there is no in between. Yeah. What's the saying again? You're either with us or against us. That's where we are as a society. Watch out for that line. Watch out for it. You're either with us or against us. And getting back into the middle school classroom, I look at these popular crowds of kids. You're either with us or against us. If you want to sit over at that table by some other friends, then you are against us and you don't belong here. If you're not going to smoke, then you are not with us. You are not one of our friends. If you are not going to go over to that girl and treat her disrespectfully and talk about parts of her body and talk about, inappropriate subjects with her, then you are not one of our friends. I see this. I see this every day as a teacher. And it starts here. It starts at middle school. And parents, if you're one of those people who say, I don't see my girl being mean. Oh, boys will be boys. Or you almost expect them to be in the popular crowd. Going back to one of my prior podcasts, I don't want my daughter to be in the marching band. I don't want her to be a geek. Parents, wake up, wake up. Okay. It starts here. It starts in middle school. This is where this going way over here begins. And we're going to continue going that direction unless we can change these things. Whew, this is a tough podcast. I'm going to do just a couple more here. The mark of a wild heart is living out the paradox of love in our lives. It's the ability to be tough and tender, excited and scared, brave and afraid, all in the same moment. In middle school, some kids really get it. And sometimes it's because of parenting, and sometimes it's because they just kind of have the genes and the heredity. Um, some kids just don't really care what others think. And I shouldn't say they don't care. They care, but they know it's more important to be who they are, especially if who they are is an awesome person. And these kids are the minority, I would say, in the schools. There are a lot of kids who kind of fight that battle every day and in general make the right decision. They usually make the right decision. I would say the majority of kids are like that, but they battle. They battle a lot because middle school's hard. And then you have another minority of kids who lose the battle every day. They side with bad decisions. They side with popularity. They side with being friends because those are the cool kids and they want to be cool. And it's not who they are, but they make that decision anyway. And it's kind of interesting because a lot of those cool kids, one on one, are really great kids. But as soon as they encounter one of their friends, the bad decisions start, the bad language starts, the bad grades start, the inability to be a very respectful person starts. And so we need to address that again as a school. And we need to give kids that courage to do what they feel is right. We need to give kids the courage to do what their teachers and parents who know what's right are encouraging them to do and are encouraging them to stay away from. So that's our goal. I'm going to do one more, being a music teacher. She talks a lot about the arts in this book, and so I really like this one right here. Art has the power to render sorrow beautiful, make loneliness a shared experience, and transform despair into hope. Only art can take the holler of a returning soldier and turn it into a shared expression and a deep collective experience. Music, like all art, gives pain and our most wrenching emotions voice, language, and form, so we can be recognized and shared. The magic of the high, lonesome sound is the magic of all art. The ability to both capture our pain and deliver us from it at the same time. When we hear someone else sing about the jagged edges of heartache or the unspeakable nature of grief, we immediately know we're not the only ones in pain. The transformative power of art is in this sharing. Without connection or collective engagement, what we hear is simply a caged song of sorrow and despair. We find no liberation in it. It's the sharing of art that whispers, "You're not alone." I talk about sometimes art, music not being required in schools. This is the subject that can bring kids together because we all share it and it helps us know we're not alone. When you enter my classroom, my band room, my music classes, there is a joy. I'm not saying that kids are always happy, but there is a joy that they have each other. And kids aren't even always in the middle school, especially like the younger kids, aren't able to express that reason, but it's one of the number one reasons they're there because it brings them together. I just went to a Paramore concert and Haley Williams, the lead singer, just said, "Hey, just look around. We probably have a lot of different values here, politically, religiously, spiritually, but we have something in common. We are all here to enjoy music. And we are all here together having a great time." And she was so right. Music has that ability to bring us together and to help us start solving those issues. And like I said earlier in the podcast, to bring us together in such a way where we realize that we love each other and we care for each other and that just because you're a Republican and I'm a Democrat doesn't mean that we still can't love each other and care for each other and appreciate each other. And because we love each other and care for each other and appreciate each other and respect each other, we can maybe start having those hard conversations about where we differ in our viewpoints and in our values. It's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So, schools, we need to have music and art, and kids need to be in it. They need to be in it, or they're not going to get some of this stuff as easily. Oh, what a podcast. You know, I hope I didn't like make anyone too mad through any of this. But if I did, and something you disagree with me on, and this was all from my heart, so sometimes I might have spoken a little harshly, feel free to let me know, and we can have a conversation, especially if it's somebody that I know really well and care for a lot, because I respect all my friends, and even if we do have different views on some things, I think it's really important to talk through that stuff. So it's been really great to have you join me here for this podcast today. Next week, I will not be doing one because we'll be doing the Hits Don't Stop podcast, which is on iTunes, where I take a year from many years back and count down the top 40 hits. So thanks for joining me back. I'll be back in 2 weeks with Second Floor Therapy.